All right, good morning, B-Sides. Thank you guys all for coming out. Appreciate it. 11 a.m., 2 talks done. There is a whole lot of good material that I've been sitting through this morning and really enjoyed it. Thank you guys for coming to my talk. Looking forward to talking to everybody this morning. Hope to keep it really short and sweet and give you guys some meaningful material. So let's get started. So who am I, right? A lot of people do these at talks, and I find them to be very important. So I'm going to go through that first on our agenda. I also want to talk about what my goals are for this talk with you. Sometimes speakers have this fervor for the material, and they launch right into their talk, and then I'm going, okay, I'm not following the goals. So I want to give you guys some goals. I want to talk about a historical context of why this talk just came to my mind and why I wanted to talk about it. I also want to talk about the ontological context behind this talk. We in this room are living in an AI age. We are humans. We have ontology. We have existence. We have perception and thought and meaning. So that is important to this talk as well. I'm obviously going to be talking about AI. If you probably came to this talk, that may be one of the things that drew you there. I really hope to not disappoint there. And then finally, I'm going to talk about holistic testing. I know that there are British and English spellings, one with a W and one with not. But I am going to talk about what that means and what that means for you by the end of this talk. And finally, I should have time for some questions. So let's go ahead and get started. Who am I, and why did people have these Who Am I talks, right, at the beginning? Why do we have these introductions? Well, I fundamentally believe that every human has a worldview. Whether we like it or not, we have a way that we perceive the world, we have a way that we act, we have a way that we talk, we have a way that we are. And as a result of that, that frames what I do every day, why I get up, and the level of effort and what I do for my work, what drives me to function, right? So I want to specifically talk about that. You'll notice that throughout my presentation, I'm going to have a lot of Sherlock Holmes quotes. For those of you familiar with Arthur Conan Doyle's series, my talk is titled that. I'll talk about that a little bit later. And the goal of this is really just to honor some of, I believe, the timeless principles throughout Sherlock Holmes' series and what Doyle's writing means and why it can still talk to us today. Okay, so really quick, just going to fly through these. Personal, who am I, right? I'm a servant of Christ. I'm a Christian ideologically. That frames my worldview. That is the central core of who I am, and I'm unashamed of that. I'm a husband and a father. I have a wonderful wife of almost 16 years. I have 4 amazing children that I love and get to spend time with and get to raise to be men and women. I love technology. We're all here because that's what we love, right? This is the field we're in. I hope you love technology. You're here. I am a homesteader. I'm one of those weirdos that you've seen on Twitter X that are like nuts about the new tech that's coming out today, and then I go home and I have chickens and turkeys and hopefully goats by the end of this year. So professional life, I didn't start out in IT. I've talked to a lot of people who didn't start out in IT. I started out as a Japanese language major. But that kind of jumped ship, ran into break-fix sysadmin, cut my teeth doing that for a few years, went into cloud infrastructure, moved into building and deployments, and then I'm jumping into Cybersec testing, and now I'm in the GRC world. And I promise for anybody who's like, oh no, GRC, red flags, I'm out. I promise it won't be boring just because I'm in GRC right now. I think GRC is legit, and I think it's important. All right, so what is the genesis of this talk? Why am I here, and why did I want to talk about this talk? Well, the fundamental basis behind why I'm here and what I want to talk about is the AI craze. If you've gone to a B-Sides or a Black Hat or any other information security conference in the last year, there has been an AI talk. Probably, for the vast majority of them, there have been many AI talks. It is taking over everybody's minds. We see big tech, your Apples, your Microsofts, your Googles. That is what their whole focus is on. Their entire Twitter X feed is just dumping what they're doing in AI. It's obviously important tech. So I want to talk about that. But I also want to talk about what security gaps would exist in that world and some of the things that we may or may not be thinking of as a result of that. I then want to talk about advanced detection. And this advanced detection today is not going to come from a machine. And I hope that My talk, some of the Sherlock Holmes quotes that you guys will see down there at the bottom throughout this is going to help bring you all into the goal of what I'm hoping to talk about, holistic testing, which is going to involve us. I'm going to talk about a business cultural analysis, why it's important for your business, your culture, and who you are as a worker in this industry. Finally, I need to talk about that we need an answer. I see people developing all kinds of crazy, great tools and with AI, and my greatest concern is that we're flying down the road. It's almost a minute-by-minute, hour-by-hour update on the social media feed, and I haven't seen a lot of answers coming back to take the step back. So the goal for this talk is to take the step back. And to do that, I need to go over 3 pillars of study, okay? Excuse me. So those 3 pillars of study are going to frame the way that we look at AI and ultimately a holistic testing approach. So history. These are just some screenshots I've randomly grabbed off the internet, different points in history, different times, fictional, non-fictional works and times in history, pieces of art. And what I want to communicate with this is that history is an absolutely invaluable tool. Every one of you uses history every single day in your job. We use history because we look at data. Data is points in time. They are stamps of sometimes fact, sometimes trajectories, sometimes elements that we have to correlate together to create functions and ways that we move forward. But have we actually stepped outside of the data in our org, outside of our org, or even the data of the last 10, 20, 30, 40, even 50 years when some of the first world computers were being developed, and looked at historical backgrounds and why those are important? One of the great thinkers that I love to look at in ancient history, Solomon the Wise, he had a comment. He said, "There is nothing new under the sun." And what he didn't mean there was that it's not like, oh, Solomon, you missed it. You didn't see AI coming. You didn't see computers. What he meant is the role and function of humans has always been to develop our society and or destroy our society. And that has not changed. So as a result, it's not there's nothing new under the sun. It's also boring. What that means is we can look back and see what has come before us, and that can inform the way that we act now. So take a look at history, think about it, and how that is important. Pillar 1. Pillar 2, security, right? This is the world that we live in, right? Castles, walls. This is what we do every single day. Every single one of your orgs is essentially a modern day castle with walls trying to guard something precious. Bank safes, vaults. This is what we do. We protect important things. AI, now we're taking tools and we're using these tools to inform the way that we protect important things. But what kind of things do we protect? Why do we protect them? People can protect things of monetary value. People, we can protect all different kinds of things. We can even desire to protect our reputation with someone. If you go back to an Old Testament story of Cain and Abel, the idea was Cain wasn't accepted by God. Abel was. And Cain was like, I'm sick of this guy. I'm getting him out of the way. And so there's my one meme for this talk. I just wanted to throw in one meme. All right, so now the third pillar is humanity. This is who we are, okay? Nothing I'm going to say here today is probably going to be new, but I do want to talk about concepts in a way that I hope we haven't thought about them and can inform the way that we do think about them in the future. Humanity creates. Humanity builds. Humanity defends, right? Humanity also destroys. Humanity tears down. Humanity attacks. Now, probably one of the only questions that I'm going to throw out there for thought is which one of these lists sounds better than the other? Most of you would probably say the list on the left. I would say it depends on context, right? I can create chaos in a city. I can destroy barriers between cultures. I can tear down political walls in an organization. I can build and defend selfishly, right? I can do these things, and so we can't look at the way that we perceive the world and just simply say objects only have one function, right? That's a way that we maybe look at like a server, for example, if you're trying to fulfill a PCI or a SysTop 18, but that may not be the way that we look at the way that humans interact. We have tools, we have agency, and those are things that we should be thinking about. Finally, you are what you eat. And this is my first challenge that I'll put out for this talk. What do you do on a daily basis to create, destroy, tear down, attack, build, defend? What are the ways that you use the agency, the ontology that you have as a human to interact with the world? And are you developing yourself in this industry? I'm very encouraged to see everybody here, because when I see people here, I see these are people that are interested in developing who they are. They're coming out here and they're listening to a talk. They're listening to all of these talks today because they want to get better at what they do. So we are what we eat, right? We are going to become the kind of people, the things that we're interested in denote. So that's going to frame part of this talk through too. Okay, so enter AI. This is not the fourth pillar, and that's really important to point out. AI is not the fourth pillar. The spoiler alert, I've already said it a couple times. AI at its fundamental core level is a tool, right? It is a hammer. It is something that can get stuff done. It is incredibly powerful, and I think through a majority of AI talks that I've listened to, people have said some crazy sci-fi things that are somehow coming true. People have said some things that haven't come true, and people have said, this is what's going to happen. And just like a friend of mine told me last night, yeah, that's probably not going to come true, right? So we're in a world where we don't know what AI is capable of, but at the world we exist in today, it is still very much a tool. Here's some examples of my most recent social media feed about different things that are being done with AI, right? Google, DeepMind, looking into what Google is doing with AI, imagery, audio, those kind of things. Excuse me. Excuse me. Microsoft getting into GPT-4o, looking at what that can do with your system, looking at the way that that can interact with you as you play a video game like Minecraft, right? You can search AI pen testing, right? And you're going to find all different kinds of websites across the internet that are going to say, this is our AI machine learning tool. Here's how we're going to use it to pen test your organization. There's a lot more that I want to say about that later on in the talk, right? And just another example, here's how we can use all this data to get inside your organization and learn more about it. And then we can pen test against you, and all you have to do is press a button and watch the magic, right? Finally, just one example that hit my feed 3 or 4 days ago, excuse me, and just looking at, hey, AI Python code exploits, they exist, right? So we look at AI in many ways as fundamentally a different entity from anything that we've looked at, but I still want to, for the purposes of this talk, and the high level that I'm sitting at right now, 15,000 feet, I want to look at it as it is still in the nature of a tool. Now, why do I say that, right? Well, what is AI right now? Now, I just grabbed this off the internet. There are arguments aplenty out there. There's the 8 laws of AI, or the 10 types of AI, or the 7 types. I found the 7 to be the most right now. We're still all figuring this out. But I think it's important to note that we're somewhere in this AGI world right now. We've got this artificial general intelligence that is capable of doing incredible things, right? But it still needs user input. We're not really at the super intelligence level, although I've seen some stuff just in the last days, maybe even hours, that is showing we're not too far away from getting there, right? And then you've got these 4, 5, 6, and 7 are different purposes of AI. Most of you probably are already fully aware of this right now and know what this is, but I just wanted to point out that right now we are still at the point in time with AI where it requires a user input and thoughtfulness of a user to ultimately be of value for the purposes that I want it to be of value, right? It's not like the Jetsons where Rosie just floats up to me in the morning and goes, hey, what do you want, a coffee? You know, like maybe. I was watching a demo of a robot just obeying a woman's commands and putting oranges into a basket and then going and put them on a table. Like, we're not far away, right? But we are still needing it to give user input. Okay, so AI, and we framed our pillars of history, security, and humanity. What's next, right? Just like I had to have an obligatory meme, I have to have an obligatory 1985 Goonies quote. So it is our time down here, right? It is important for us to know that we are at this point right now. We are security professionals. We are in our fields, and we have capabilities to do incredible things with this tool. You can go, anybody can go, as you well know, on OpenAI's site. You can hit up Copilot on your desktop. You can download LM Studio and start running your own Phi 3 or Ollama 3 instances sandboxed. And what are we doing with this tool? How are we utilizing this tool? What do we want to accomplish? What do our orgs want to accomplish? That is an important topic that we need to be thinking about, right? Excuse me, I've been using offline LLMs for some months right now. I don't give any product or anything recommendations. If you are new to the AI world and you want to do a sandboxed LLM, probably the easiest in is LM Studio. It is pretty easy to use, and you can download just about anything that's modern out right now that is open source and can be dumped in there. People are updating instances all the time, and it's very fun to play with. And that's just a great place to start. But it is changing every vertical. So what are we doing with it right now, okay? So that's the 5K foot view. We're zooming in and sort of landing the plane towards the ground of what we want to do with this tool. Well, I want to talk about, this is not the end of my slides, but this is the end, as in telos. The Greek word telos means end. It also means goal. It is the purpose to which things are driven. And so my question for all of us is, what is our purpose as a human? What is our end? What is our goal? None of that has changed. We still all are here with organizations for a purpose. We still all want to accomplish something. We still all are hired to do a job. What is our purpose? What is the end goal to which my organization is working? What are the assets that they are protecting? What is the telos? A system right now that can say, pen test your organization, can do a whole lot with authentication and maybe do some Kerber roasting and lateral movement and privilege escalation, but does it know what my company's telos is? Probably not. And why is that important? Okay, so the end of this tool is that it is a tool, and we should absolutely begin to use it. I can guarantee you this tool will be something that is in organizations. If it's not already, it's going to be in the next decade. And that's probably the only prediction I will make, because I want to stay to very safe predictions. I see this being used. We're using it in my organization. I've talked to people at this conference. Most people are using it right now in their orgs. So what does that mean? Are we using it, right? Finally, or not finally, but next, what are the differences, right? This is, in a sense of tools, it's no different than a lot of things that we see. Do you want to build or buy, right? Are you looking at off the shelf, those slides that those pictures that I just showed a minute ago? They're replete out there. There are people looking to say, take advantage of this, use something like MITRE ATT&CK or any number of frameworks and say, I can build an AI algorithm, a machine learning tool that can attack your organization, give you a report, off to the races, right? Is that something you want in your org? Or do you want to build in-house? And what is that going to take? Also, what is your org? Again, what's the telos? What's the goal of your org? And why do you want that AI in that specific point? Why do you want to give it permissions in that specific area? Why is that important, right? So finally, and this is probably the most science fiction that I will get in this talk, AI ultimately does have a worldview. Why does it have a worldview? Because we program it to have a worldview. If anybody might want to disagree or have a different thought about that, I'd love to talk after the talk. But all I have to do is throw in some different questions to GPT, for example, and I get a whole bunch of answers back to show that AI has been programmed to have a worldview. It has a way of viewing the world. This is fiction, this is fact, this is a story, this is history, those kinds of things, right? And this is probably the most science fiction question that I'll ask this entire talk. Does its worldview align with your company mission? What is your company mission? Only you know that, right? We haven't trained the algorithm. Maybe some of you are, and that would be incredible. Are you training the algorithm to know your org inside and out the way that you do so that it can defend your org or attack your org in the way that you want it to? Those are important considerations. Okay, so let's use our pillar of history and get some historical examples. Probably the most common example that we ever hear of in the information security world is the Trojan horse, right? This has been around since viruses have been around. This has been around since attacks have been around. I probably heard about Trojans in the late 90s when I was still in public school, right? This is a thing that has been around. Now, why was historically the Trojan horse so successful? Well, it was seen as a very important item in the this Greco-Grecian Athenian war, right? The Greeks had this great idea. We're going to pack some people in this thing. We're going to cart ourselves off. They're going to go and grab it and pull it in, and now we've just gained privileged access into their castle, right? And so this worked, and that's because the defenders thought that it was a trophy. They thought that this was something I'm going to grab and I'm going to take hold of, and I'm going to call this mine. And the attackers thought that's exactly what they're going to do. So I'm going to take advantage of that. I'm going to exploit it. What's another example? Well, here's one that ultimately failed. For those of you who are familiar with the French Maginot Line, after World War I and with the rise of Nazi Germany in the 30s, France said, you know what? We're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars and we're going to build a wall. And we're going to make sure that Germany can't cross that wall. Now, I don't think I have a laser pointer here, but if you look towards the top of the map there, near where Belgium is, in the Ardennes forest, they didn't build a wall. Why? Well, they couldn't get over it in World War I. Their tanks didn't work. They got slogged down. So they're probably not coming that way. And where exactly did Hitler move his troops? Right through the Ardennes forest, right? So time affects history and the way that we respond to attacks. It didn't work out for the French because their view and scope of protecting their organization, their infrastructure, their community was, we know what works and we're going to do what works. But are we accounting for what's going to happen? What could be innovated, right? This is another reason why I think it's really important for all of us to be well up on what's going on in the AI infrastructure and AI developments. Next, the Enigma machine, a German-developed tool for World War II, right? Almost a pretty, at its time, incredible cryptographic device and something that encoded many messages for the Germans. But ultimately, there was a weakness. And I don't think I have that quote from Sherlock Holmes, but he has a really good quote about discovering and detecting. That may be on a future slide. So with all of these tools, we have two that failed and one that succeeded. We know that historically, things like a Trojan horse still work because it looks like a legitimate asset. It looks like something that works, right? Walls, certain walls, if not properly defended and properly looked after, will eventually not work. Cryptograms and cryptographic hashing, etc., will not work over time. Those things, defenses must age. Attacks can innovate, right? And attacks can even still work over history. So we need to be able to look at that. Now, how does AI figure into all of this? Well, AI could do what a lot of this stuff does. I mean, it could probably build a Maginot Line that would work, right? Somebody could probably say, build me an infrastructure Maginot Line and make it to where the Germans couldn't get through it, right? Or make it work for today, right? It could build a potentially cryptographically stronger algorithm than just about anything that's out there today. There are numerous capabilities that this tool can do, right? And same thing with like the Trojan horse. When I think of cryptography, my favorite thing to think about is, has anybody ever tried to work on the Beale papers with AI? Because if you haven't, I'm definitely working on it, and I think it'd be really cool, because there's $43 million of gold in Virginia somewhere, and those papers cryptographically tell where it is, presumably. So something to think about. Okay, so let's look at examples of some ways that AI is at work in our organizations today and some security concerns, right? A lot of the concerns that you'll probably see on Twitter, X today are going to be privacy concerns, right? Now, almost every article I'm going to show probably has an update within the last day or so, because that's just how fast things are changing. But these are some timestamps I took from about a week and a half ago, right? Examples of using user data, right? That is something everybody who uses Reddit, we told Reddit we're cool with. Here's the EULA, checkbox, done, off to the races. Slack, same story, building an AI algorithm, more privacy concerns, potential security concerns for Slack too. Finally, and one that really interests me, is Microsoft's recent announcement of Copilot AI for Windows. Hey, I've got a power of recall now. I can go back and see every action that you've done historically on your Windows machine. Okay, I'm not scared, I'm just somewhat concerned. There's a don't trust but verify going on right now, right? We need to be thinking about how these tools are being leveraged on us in the world that we live in the communication tools that we use, and does that mean something for our organization? So we have defenses, right? There are holes and patches. Historically, this has always been the same way that it is, and it will still be today. We are still going to defend our organizations. AI may be a new tool, a tool used against us, or a tool that we're using, but it is still patching walls, right? It is still shoring up defenses, okay? So walls need defenders who know those weaknesses. That's you all in this room, okay? Walls need watchful defenders, right? We need to be folks who never phone it in on our job. Every single day we get up, this is something that we're going to just jump right into, okay? What is it doing? What's the latest? How do I look at everything my org knows? How do I look at the telos of my org? Who am I? How do I factor into this, right? How can I be watchful with AI? How can I defend my organization, right? And then an understanding that AI is still changing the how of most organizations, and will be over the next 1 year, 5 years, 2 days, who knows? But it's not changing the why, right? We still, every single day, get up and go defend our organizations because we care about our organization's success, not only for our jobs, but many of you are putting lights on. You're putting gas in people's tanks. You're helping healthcare. You're helping efficiencies with information technology and computers. It's nothing changed. We still care about defending our organizations because ultimately we care about jobs and human flourishing. I don't want to watch this area, this culture fade. Well, to do that, I have to be a stalwart defender, right? So AI is now a tool that I'm going to leverage against that. But AI doesn't need to be seen as this is it, everything changes. I think a whole lot's going to change, right? But the why is still going to be the same. We're still going to be people defending towers, okay? Finally, at the pavement, it is not a silver bullet, okay? It must be specifically vetted. We have to look carefully at what these tools are doing. I cannot stand when I talk to organizations and they're like, we got this new tool. And I'm like, oh, okay, did you do some due diligence before you got that tool? Well, I mean, it was awesome. The sales tech got in there and he showed us what it can do. I'm like, yeah. Does it call back to their org? Does it feed their org your data? Do you even know how it tests? Concerns? There are some concerns for me. I think AI is going to be amazing. Let's look at it carefully. And also, I think we should have in our orgs, whether it's small or big, even if it's a one-pager, look carefully at what it does and then have a document that says, this is who our org is, this is what our org does, this is who I am, and this is why I say AI only goes this far. And I will use tools or develop tools that accord with my company's mission and telos, right? That's important, and we need to take those into consideration. So, why the name for this talk? Why did I choose The Compromise of the Baskervilles? Well, I love Sherlock Holmes, I love Arthur Conan Doyle, and the Hound of the Baskervilles is one of my favorite books that he does. So, for those of you who don't know, this is a 100-plus-year-old book, so I'm sorry if I'm going to spoil this for you. I won't spoil all the details. I won't tell Holmes's famous ending speech where he says everything that he does. But you have a story of a man who moves to the moors. He gets a great inheritance. There's this supposedly supernaturally evil hound there, and he's killing people. And this guy's really scared. Calls in Holmes and Watson. Holmes doesn't go this time. He sends Watson. He says, only do these things, Watson. Watson is now acting in a way like a defender AI. He needs to go learn about the organization and find out what's going on. The hound is the attacker AI, right? And just bear with me here. What you find out later is that there is someone behind the hound. The hound has been bred, developed, starved, and chemicals used on it to make it seem larger than life and supernatural, right? Watson thinks he's only acting alone, thinks Holmes is too busy for this. He's writing letters back to him. Holmes shows up on the scene at just the right time and says, you were integral in solving this, right? Because Holmes knew how to get to the end. He knew how to beat the supernatural, right? Because he knew how to use the people around him and the tools in his belt to get to the answer. That's why I love Sherlock Holmes, because every single story is going to be the same. Every single story is going to tell us, here's how to detect, here's how to inspect, here's how to look at things. And this is probably my favorite quote out of the whole talk, right? It's of the highest importance in the art of detection to be able to recognize of the number of facts which are incidental and which are vital. Otherwise, your energy, attention must be dissipated rather than concentrated. I promise you, the best tools without the right inputs will still do that in today's world. You all have to be there. You have to know who you are, know your telos, know your company's mission, and you have to be able to direct that tool to use and interact with your company in the right way, or I promise you'll have a Maginot Line. You will. So, holistic testing, the whole person. For the whole organization. For the whole protection and whole automation. That is what holistic testing is. It's you, it's me, it's us. We're working together, we're funneling the inputs, we're creating the organization. Breaking it down, it all comes down to know your field, know your castle, know your attackers, know how to protect. That's everything that I said today. It's nothing new. It's probably a reminder, but I really hope it hits home. We are still critically important in the AI age. Thank you.
Any questions? Let people think a little bit.
There's great power in all the tools that are now wanting to leverage AI and get on that bandwagon. What do you think, for the security industry in particular, is the best application for AI right now for us, while we're still learning so much about what it can do for us?
Yeah, that is an excellent question. So I will say that something is going to be critically important over the next, I think, within 5 years, is going to be information security defense, information testing defense, and information testing attack. I think those are going to be critical tools. I think people are go to market really fast with them right now. And I think it's just get it out there as fast as possible. I think there are sandbox versions. LM Studio has some. People are already developing them. You can put them in a sandboxed area and develop them and deploy them safely. I'm just deeply concerned about taking somebody's off the shelf right now. So I think if I would tell somebody to start somewhere, I would say start searching for those attack and defense tools and take a look at them. Also, something I didn't mention in the talk, and thank you so much for bringing up that question, a lot of tools you're using right now are going to have AI dumped into them within the next year, if they don't already. Your heuristic defense probably has some kind of AI-powered stuff. And it would be incumbent upon all of us to say, what kind of data is going back? How is it funneling? How is this tool now being leveraged for my organization and against my organization? So those are already there. So we should definitely be playing with those.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Great presentation, thank you. Yeah, we have AI, on the offense, AI on the defense. I was just at RSA a couple weeks ago. Every vendor used the word AI this, AI that. It's all enhanced. integrated. It's over the top. Do you have a particular LLM that you like? You know, Olama or even Mistral, OpenAI, you like Gemini, Bard, any particular ones you prefer? And then the other thing, what do you think about agents and the evolution of agents that are going to be coming?
Yeah, so I'll answer your first question. I almost didn't hear your second one.
Agents, AI agents.
Oh, so yeah, agents. So I do tell people a lot, like for newcomers, for people who are brand new, LM Studio is probably the easiest way to get started. It's just Steam or something for AI. You can just go marketplace, download what you want, and then get started based on what you think of. I use Reddit a lot to talk to different folks in the industry in security and look at what they're looking at and see some of my favorite LLMs that I've been playing with over the past few weeks and months. I've used Olama 3 and I've used Phi 3 just to see how they compare with each other. I like to put them head to head. I like to put them in contests with each other. So I'm guessing that if they're not already out by now, some people are trying to get some open source GPT-4o copycats out there and to see what they can do. And as soon as those come out, I'll want to try those as well.
All right, let's thank our speaker one more time.